The House will come to order. Members will be at their seats. The clerk has opened the roll, and you may record your presence. Please rise and give your attention to the House chaplain, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance led by Representative Alcala.
Good morning, my friends. Allow me to pray for you. Father, we want to first of all thank you for a good night's rest and a new day to stand in the gap for the people of Kansas. We're in a good place to make a positive difference for those whom we've been called to serve. Indeed, we are blessed with the opportunities as well as the challenges set before us. Some have already met opposition to thoughts and ideas they consider important. Teach us, each of us, if you would, the right and correct way to respond to those who see things differently than we do. In your word, you direct leadership to be harmonious, sympathetic, kind-hearted, and humble in spirit, not returning evil for evil or insult for insult, but instead giving a blessing. Give us the courage to speak with proper and thoughtful words, and even in wisdom to be quiet when quietness is the better choice. Allow us to acknowledge your divine direction, to be quick to hear, slow to speak, and slow to anger. I pray for the peace of Almighty God to prevail upon our state and nation. In some respects, these are difficult days and thus require cool heads and sensitive as well as thoughtful spirits. I intercede for the homeless and marginalized individuals who struggle day to day for their very existence. Help us to push any judgmental thoughts aside and see these individuals as you see them. And if opportunities should exist to help us manifest your goodness to them, allow that to happen. Now, may the grace of Almighty God give us strength and blessings as we gather together to work for you. In Jesus' name, amen.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic which stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Have all members had an opportunity to record their presence? The clerk will close the roll and record the attendance. Introduction of bills and concurrent resolutions, the clerk will read.
House Bill 2436 by Representatives Weichel, Amix, and others, an act concerning health and healthcare. House Bill 2437 by Committee on Elections, requested by Representative Wagner, an act concerning elections. HB 2438 by Committee on Elections, requested by Representative Wagner, an act concerning elections. HB 2439 by Committee on Federal and State Affairs, requested by Representative Resman, an act concerning public health and the environment. HB 2440 by Committee on Taxation, requested by Representative A. Smith on behalf of the Kansas County Appraiser Association Oil and Gas Committee, an act concerning property taxation. HB 2441 by Committee on Taxation, requested by Representative Hoheisel on behalf of Catalyst, an act concerning income taxation. HB 2442 by Committee on Taxation, requested by Eric Stafford on behalf of the Kansas Chamber of Commerce, an act concerning taxation. HB 2443 by Committee on Taxation, requested by Representative Hoheisel on behalf of Catalyst. HB 2444 by Representatives McNorton, Anderson, and others, an act concerning crimes, punishment, and criminal procedure.
Speaker recognizes Majority Leader Croft for a motion to resolve into the Committee of the Whole.
Mr. Speaker, I move the House resolve itself in the Committee of the Whole for the purpose of considering those items under the heading of General Orders.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye. All opposed, no. The ayes have it. The motion carries. The Speaker appoints Representative Adam Smith to chair the Committee of the Whole.
Chair recognizes the Majority Leader Croft for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Pursuant to House Rule 1903, I move that House Bill 2332, appearing under the order of business, General Orders, be passed over and retain a place on the calendar.
Body, you've heard the motion. Those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. Okay, so now our first item of business is House Bill 2204. For the purpose of carrying House Bill 2204, the chair recognizes Representative Schmoy.
Mr. Chair, there were no committee amendments.
You may proceed.
Good morning. It is great to see you guys. Okay, we are kicking off today with HB 2204, which, let me put on my readers. International organizations. We are declaring that specifically the World Health Organization, the United Nations, and the World Economic Forum shall have no jurisdiction or power within the state of Kansas. And with that, I will stand for questions.
Okay, does any member wish to speak to the bill? Chair recognizes Representative Meyer.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Wow. It's fun to be back here so quick. I did have a question for the carrier of the bill, if that's okay. Hey. Okay. I was just kind of wondering if you could refresh my memory because it's been a bit since we heard this in committee. Can you tell me why you brought this bill up and what kind of the motivation behind it was?
Absolutely. I had a group of my constituents come to me and they were very concerned with global entities making decisions for Kansas instead of Kansans.
Okay. And has there been any point in the past where global entities have successfully been able to make these decisions for Kansans?
This is more so closing a loophole that can be exploited.
Okay, I understand. Thank you. Appreciate it. Okay, well, I have some thoughts. So obviously I rise in opposition to House Bill 2204 because while it may sound tough, it's ultimately just bad legislation for the state. First, this bill solves a problem that absolutely does not exist. The World Health Organization, the United Nations, and the World Economic Forum do not have the power to make or enforce laws in Kansas. They never have. Kansas law is made right here by us here in the legislature, signed by our governor, and interpreted by our courts. Passing a bill to block authority that doesn't exist is symbolic at best and misleading at worst. Second, this legislation risks real harm to Kansas's credibility and economic interests. Kansas farmers, businesses, universities, and hospitals regularly work with international partners. The WHO provides disease surveillance and public health data. The UN facilitates trade standards and disaster coordination. Even if this bill is not legally enforceable, it sends a message that Kansas is hostile to cooperation and expertise. That hurts investment, research funding, and our reputation as a serious governing state. Third, the bill is legally questionable. Foreign affairs and international organizations fall squarely under federal authority. By attempting to nullify international engagement outright, this legislation invites lawsuits, wastes taxpayer money, and distracts from issues we actually have the power to fix, like healthcare access, rural economic development, and infrastructure. Finally, Kansans expect practical leadership, not political theater, as much as we do love it. Our constituents want safe communities, strong farms, healthy kids, good jobs, affordable housing, access to health care. And this bill does nothing to advance those goals. I feel like Kansas can be independent without being isolated, and we can protect our sovereignty without cutting ourselves off from the world. So for those reasons, I urge you to oppose this bill. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Representative Carmichael.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. To echo the wise words of my colleague, it's worse than ironic that the first bill the House of Representatives takes up this year is a do-nothing, meaningless bill. And I really hope that we can spend our time doing more important things, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Representative Carr.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Would the carrier of the bill stand for a question?
Yes.
And I'm not in that committee, and this is all kind of actually strange or different to me. So, just so I get an understanding, is what we're implying that if, for instance, from another foreign nation, an aircraft was on its way here, and the World Health Organization had determined that there were people on that aircraft that had something like the bubonic plague, and they were arriving in June. And forgive me if this sounds ridiculous, but is what we're saying that before we would make a determination as to whether or not we would listen to the World Health Organization and not allow them to deboard that aircraft, we would have to wait until January, until this body met again to allow them in the country, or to deboard that plane? I'm confused.
Well, we actually have special session for things exactly like that. But in that sense, since it's an international flight, that would be taken care of at the federal level.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Chair recognizes Representative Susan Ruiz.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Let me get my notes here. I don't know if everyone is aware the good that the World Health, or in particular the World Health Organization, does. And if you think about what's in the title, is world. And we're only one piece of that pie of the world. And we are important, obviously a very important piece of that pie for this organization. One way that we can ward off pandemics in our country is to be able to take care of, or help to take care of some of that in other countries, in third world countries, where they don't have the kind of resources that we have the privilege of having in our country. At the beginning of this Trump administration, they did away with the aid that has been coming through our agricultural partners throughout the whole country, have been supplying not just food, but many other resources to these countries. And those resources includes vaccines, antibiotics, all kinds of medical equipment and resources that are needed in those countries. To one, it would help to stabilize some of those countries. And we took that away from them. And the result is, and I don't really have the number for it, but there were millions of children of all ages, infants in particular, who starved to death because we stopped that aid. I am not proud of our country for doing that at all. We need to work in cooperation with the World Health Organization and not against it. And we need to, as a country, work with other organizations that help our citizens as well. So there are resources that we can gain through the World Health and other organizations like that that can also help our country in our rural areas. And we have states that are very, very poor. They will also help with that. Our country right now is upside down and inside out. We are experiencing devastation across our country that we've never felt before. And I know the word affordability seems to be a bad word right now, but it's not. We want our citizens to be able to afford to live, to provide for their families, and be part of our workforce and contribute to our economy. And yet we are little by little chipping away at what helps to sustain our economy. And one big section, especially for Kansas, is our immigrant community and what they do for our country, for our state in particular, with all of the cattle that we have, all the feedlots, dairy farms, farms of all kinds of sizes require help. They need people in the fields. And they're desperate. They need that, and we need that as a country. Our state needs to continue to thrive with growing wheat and corn, soybeans, and other kinds of crops that keeps our state going. And with that, I have an amendment.
The amendment appears short. The clerk will read.
I move to amend HB 2204 on page 1 in line 6 by striking the World Health Organization, United Nations, and by striking all in line 7 through 11, in line 12 by striking all before the period and inserting the United States Immigration and Customs Enforcement shall have no jurisdiction or power within the state of Kansas or its political subdivisions. Also on page 1 in the title in line 1 by striking all after concerning, by striking all in line 2, in line 3 by striking all before the period and inserting the United States Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, just declaring that ICE has no power to enforce any policy or regulation within the state of Kansas or its political subdivisions.
Yesterday, a local news station in Kansas City, Missouri, did a report on a tip that they got that there was a very large lot in not quite sure where exactly, but it may be close to where the stadiums are. And it contains dozens of ICE vehicles, brand new SUVs. If you have an SUV, you know how much that costs. There were dozens of them. And if you see the picture, you probably think there's a couple of hundred there. They're just sitting there. And then the story has been evolving since yesterday. And one story yesterday, it was that Kansas City, Missouri is being held as a staging for ICE to go to Minneapolis. We already know what is the tragedy that has happened in Minneapolis. And when you have that kind of a deployment into a city, they're not welcome and they weren't asked for. Tragedy always happens because people that get those kinds of jobs or go for those kinds of jobs don't have a lot of training at all. And we saw all the videos. And you can see for yourself. I don't care what you're being told by anybody else. You can see the video for yourself and see that this person behind a wheel, a woman who has a 6-year-old child she was going to pick up, happened to be in an area where the ICE agents were. She was not there to do anything against ICE. She got caught up trying to get her car away and got her face blown off. And there were so many people that saw that. ICE will pick up anybody if you are of a brown color. If you look like you work for a landscaping, roofing company. Go into Olathe and hang out at one of the QTs off of Santa Fe. And you will see ICE there just picking up anybody they think might, quote unquote, look illegal. The vast majority of the people that are being arrested, accosted, kidnapped, and disappeared are US citizens. Or they are at various levels of immigration. They're here legally, and they're at different levels of immigration. But they're being taken away anyway. This needs to stop. We're also found out this morning that those cars, not all of them might be going to Minneapolis. Some of them are going to be deployed here in Kansas, in our communities. Our communities have law enforcement, and we support our law enforcement. They do their jobs. We don't need ICE agents stepping over them, stepping over their jurisdictions. They're being used to terrorize whole communities. And communities are starting to see less people out there working. There are less employees out there wanting to work. There's less people contributing to our economy because they're not going to the grocery stores. They're staying home. We have kids not going to school because they're afraid if they come home to an empty house. Actually, in Minneapolis, ICE agents are going to the schools and terrorizing kids. And they feel that they have immunity, like, that they can't be stoppable because they'll just be given a pardon. We need to stand up. We need to stand up. And we at least need to say each community, each city council, each county's commissioners need to make a statement to say that ICE is not welcome in their communities. And if they are there, they should be unmasked and well identified. And they should carry body cameras. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Are you willing to stand for questions on the amendment? Okay. Chair recognizes first Representative Hoheisel. Thank you for the point of order. Representative Hoheisel had raised his hand when the amendment was turned in over to the side. He did not push his button, but he had raised his hand. Thank you. Representative, you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Would you care to step forward and speak into the microphone, please? Representative Carmichael with a point of order.
I think actually there is a rule which pertains to appeals from the decision of the chair, and we ought to be following the rule, which means that each house or each party gets two speakers. Is that what you intend, or do you want me to just further explain my point of order?
Representative Carmichael, the House clerk informed me that the House rule actually says that you do have to push your button. So I will ask Representative Hoheisel to push his button and get into the queue, and I will take them in the order on the board.
I now understand that you're taking him in the queue. I appreciate your ruling. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. The chair recognizes Representative Hoy on the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This start of this semester for school-aged kids in Kansas and across the United States has had many students at home, either sick with influenza, the measles, whooping cough, which is pertussis. The spread of disease is a real threat to our communities, to the safety of our kids. And the whole point of a lot of the frustration with World Health Organization was us being stuck at home. There are so many kids stuck at home in Minnesota. These are kids who live in the Twin Cities, Minneapolis, St. Paul, and all of the suburbs. The children going to preschool are not allowed to play outside. High school classrooms are half full. The United Nations is able to take positions on what ICE is doing here in our country, and we need them to have a voice to stand up for our security and our public safety should the federal government start coming door to door here in Kansas like they're doing in Minnesota. And my apologies to all of y'all over here. I am in a bad mood today. My family and my dearest friends live in Minnesota, and so I have been getting updates from them. And to start off this session with a bill that questions scientific reasoning about disease and also takes away a world voice for those of us here who might be in the minority right now, but might need protection from the world. This is absolutely ridiculous. I stand for this amendment. We must protect our neighbors, keep them safe, and we all deserve due process in this country. And I am so grateful to the bringer of this amendment for bringing awareness to this, because it's not happening so much here in Kansas, which I can't even say that because it has happened in my neighborhood as well. Who's next? Please support this amendment. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Chair recognizes Representative McDonald.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Would the carrier of the amendment answer a question? As a fellow Johnson County resident, I share some of your frustrations, and I just wanted to confirm some things that I've heard. Is it true that law enforcement can sometimes be confused with ICE agents because ICE agents are not correctly identifying themselves in a visual way or even orally?
Yes.
Is it true that in Johnson County, and I suppose broadly in Kansas, ICE agents are wearing face coverings and not required to show their faces?
Yes.
And are they required to wear body cameras?
No.
Thank you. I really appreciate that we have brought this up today. I have noticed over the last several years an alarming sense of erosion of checks and balances on every layer of government. And this has been some of the most egregious, these have been some of the most egregious efforts made to terrorize people. I'd just like to point out that no one is above the law. When law enforcement, whether they're federal, state, local, if they're walking around without clear identification, without body masks, or sorry, without body armor, let me try again, without body cameras, with masks on, this makes all of our law enforcement officers in more danger. I would just ask that you all visit with your local and local law enforcement and see, is this a problem in your community? Because in Olathe, it is a problem in my community. And I think it's up to us to stand up and speak truth to power. I don't know about you guys, but I care very much about our law enforcement officers. They put their lives on the line every day. I'm the daughter and granddaughter of career firemen. And, you know, as a family member who watches their parent or their grandparent or their loved one go to work each day and put themselves in harm's way, I would really hope that each one of us would do everything in our power to make sure that they are as safe as possible. Masked men coming in, breaking down doors, plainclothes, unmarked vehicles. This is not the way we act in civil society. So I appreciate the carrier of the amendment. I hope this is just the first of many conversations we have about the abuse of power that we are seeing with ICE these days. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Representative Hoheisel. Chair recognizes Representative Mosley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. There are 320,000 people in Kansas that live below the poverty line, and this is what we're going to start session off with. I want to thank my colleague for bringing up this bill. What I've been seeing on the news is very alarming, but most importantly, it's just very alarming to watch people who talk about small government be so open to having mass surveillance through our communities. Right now, there's masked men who, at this point, if a masked man comes up to you, comes up to a young girl, she doesn't know if it's an ICE agent or not. So we talk about safety of women, but we're okay with ICE going through our neighborhoods. We're at a moment right now, this is our moment that when everyone questions what they would have done during the Holocaust, what they would have done during slavery, what they would have done during Jim Crow era, how you react now is how you would have reacted back then. So I really compel my colleagues that this is the moment to go and look beyond party lines, look beyond all those things and be about the citizens of our country, because the direction that we're going in is very dangerous. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Representative Simmons.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I fully support this amendment. I've been reading and hearing a lot about, to build off my colleagues' concerns about mass surveillance programs that are being used in the ICE raids. As I've researched this, it's literally technology that they can use on all of us. You, me, every single one of us in this room without a warrant, and it can track you. And if you have a problem with the government being able to, without a warrant, drive through your neighborhood and track you, please consider putting some kind of restraint on ICE in our state. I will also say, last month, a good friend of mine from college was deported to Mexico. He was the kind of neighbor every one of us would want. He had lived in the United States nearly his entire life. He had only been to Mexico a handful of times. He had a college degree. He was one of the hardest workers I knew in school. He was an outstanding friend. He was creative, and he was an upstanding person. I believe that is what we should be encouraging as people who want to make our communities better and, frankly, who will join the fight against an overreaching government. I hope you value your privacy as much as I do. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Representative Weichel.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've seen a quote a lot of times recently that I think rings true in this very moment that I'd like to share. Terrible things are happening outside. Poor, helpless people are being dragged out of their homes. Families are being torn apart. Men, women, and children are separated. Children come home from school to find that their parents have disappeared. Anne Frank, 1943. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Chair recognizes Representative Sawyer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yesterday I was watching the news and I was just so disturbed at some of the stuff I was seeing. It was hard to believe this was America. They showing these ICE agents going door to door in Minneapolis, asking people to tell on their neighbors, asking them questions about their citizenship, if they were naturalized, if they were real Americans. Very stuff that I can't believe is happening in America. It was so disturbing. And then the thing that got me the worst, I think, was there was a 17-year-old boy, a U.S. citizen, working in Walmart. The ICE agents came in, dragged him out of Walmart, threw him to the ground. He's crying. He's trying to tell them he's a U.S. citizen. They take him away. Well, later, once they figure out he was a U.S. citizen, they drop him off a mile away in a Walmart parking lot, throw him to the ground. He's crying. This stuff should not be happening in America. And my thought when I was watching this is, I hope this doesn't come to Kansas. I would hate to see 3,000 agents come where they're going door to door and they're hauling away citizens. This just isn't right. So I support the amendment.
Chair recognizes Representative Alcala.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I support the amendment. I think about the way that our Constitution is written, and I think about our freedom of speech, but anymore, our Constitution is starting to be fractured by some of these amendments that we're making. Freedom of speech is starting to turn into freedom of speech, but watch what you say. And the word fear comes to my mind. I live in a community with heavily populated Hispanic homeowners or newcomers. And there's a lot of fear in our community, a lot of fear of going out, a lot of fear of going to restaurants. It has an economic impact on businesses that are within my community or people that they go to. But it's because they fear for their children. And this is not just about Latinos. It was a Caucasian lady that they shot in the face. And it's starting to happen across the board. My fear is always civil unrest to the extent that it can't be controlled. My fear is people coming in with masks, not knowing their law enforcement background, have they been trained properly, or where do they come from? And when we talk about fear, I want to bring this up. I don't know if a lot of you remember, but it was just several years ago when the KBI director did a presentation about fear, how he was afraid for his agents in the neighborhood they were in. How he was afraid because someone may get harmed in that area. And I thought that was pretty chicken, whatever. And my point of that is that we spent millions of dollars to move them because of that fear. So I would think that we need to look at fear across the board and see how it plays out. And people really are frightened, and they're not trying to get a new home like the KBI was trying to do. They're actually fearful. I support the amendment. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Representative Meyer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm so glad that we got to have this conversation today. As I made the point before, the WHO really doesn't have much authority in the state of Kansas anyhow, but ICE sure does. And we need to make sure that we are protecting the people who live here. That is our first and foremost goal. We need to protect and support the people who live in Kansas. Because of that, I think that this amendment is a really good opportunity to make some changes in how we allow who comes into the state, determines who's committing criminal activity and who's not. Immigration process is a really long and drawn out thing. It's very complicated. People get wrapped up in the system for a very long time and are taken from their immigration hearings when they're following the law and doing what they need to do. They're taken by ICE agents. We've heard stories today of those in our communities who are kidnapped away with their families, and we don't know where they go. We know that ICE has murdered many American people and people living in the United States. We know that they have taken citizens. We know that they keep committing crimes. And so it seems like this is a perfect opportunity to amend this bill, which is talking about an organization that really has absolutely no effect on Kansas, and a kind of a, no offense to the carrier, a silly thing to be talking about when we have real people who we live in our communities with who are being taken, and some of whom who are being murdered. So I would absolutely ask you all to support this amendment. And I hope that this is just the beginning of many conversations we will have. I can guarantee you it probably will be. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Representative Ballard. Sorry.
I didn't say anything bad, boy. But thank you very much. We should all be leery. If someone approaches us with a mask on, they don't have identification. It's a common thing to happen. This is very disturbing because we've all seen the news. I would ask you to consider one thing. This should not be a political vote or political action. This should be a humanity issue. We had the chaplain's prayer breakfast yesterday, and we prayed for the judiciary, we prayed for the military, we prayed for our citizens in this state. We prayed for those issues and those people. This should not be a political vote, but a humanity vote, because all of us will be judged how we treat those that are less fortunate, and especially if they are American citizens. I support this amendment.
Chair recognizes Representative Schicken-Siepen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I too would like to speak in favor of this amendment. I'd like to just tell you briefly about my grandfather, my father's father. He was a pastor in the city of Siegen when, at the end of the war, the Allies bombed that city and destroyed it, leveled it, and his house too was struck and burned to the ground. And my grandfather stood outside of that house and he said, finally, justice had been done. He was in that same city during Reichskristallnacht, and he watched as the Nazis threw in the windows.
Excuse me, Representative, there is someone filming in the gallery. Would you please? All right, you may continue.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And at that time, my eldest uncle, paternal uncle, came with a piece of the Torah that had been burned at the synagogue and was lying in the street, and he picked up the Torah and brought it to my grandfather, who said in the presence of his Jewish secretary, "The Lord cannot let this go unpunished." So when his house burned down, my grandfather did not cry. He rejoiced that there was justice in the world, and he rejoiced that the Allies had come to rid Germany of its Nazi past. I am appalled, frankly, that I live in this time in our nation in which the same psychology, different place, different time, different circumstances, we can all explain everything away, but the same psychology is at work. And we are allowing the same kinds of things to happen that Martin Niemöller, who came to preach in my grandfather's church after the destruction of Siegen. Do you know where the church met? In an abandoned mine shaft. The city met in the mine shaft, and Martin Niemöller, who was Hitler's personal prisoner and the leader of the confessing church and a colleague of my grandfather's, spoke these words in the sermon. First, they came for the communists, and I did not speak out because I am not a communist. Then they came for the socialists, and I did not speak out because I was not a socialist. Then they came for the trade unionists, and I did not speak out because I was not a trade unionist. And they came for the Jews, and I did not speak out because I was not a Jew. Then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak out for me. If we care so little about due process in the face of what's happening right now in this nation, embodied by ICE agents, I can tell you right now, these words apply. Mark our words. This is a dangerous time. If you care about states' rights, stand up and defend Kansas. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Chair recognizes Representative Louis Cerise.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As I look around the room and see familiar faces and look at the points of conversation and smiles, how many people are actually paying attention and care? Do you care what's going on with your fellow humans across the United States and what the perception is of us around the world? I don't know if it's a priority or not, but I wanted to make sure I did thank those of my colleagues on this side of the aisle that did not vote to sustain Trump's redistricting. I want to make sure I did that because it reflects on all of us. You know, when they say Kansas did this, Kansas, it's not just you guys, it's us too. This summer, several of us drove to Dodge City and Garden City to try and recruit candidates and voters. What we did before we left the area was make sure the Highway Patrol, we talked to the major, we talked to Highway Patrol, and make sure they knew we were going across the state of Kansas. Just because we feared that we may be mistaken for somebody and picked up. So we got those phone numbers to call just in case. And I was thankful for that. And I was thankful for the support we got from our law enforcement officers. But as I see people wanting to back the blue, and I see what happened when Trump pardoned the January 6th rioters, some people call them picnickers, it breaks my heart to see that we have people in this chamber that will sustain the president's feelings just because he's the president and that's the thing to do. But those of 10 or so people that stood up and stood out and stepped forward and did not vote for the president's redistricting, thank you very much. And I will support this amendment. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Representative Stogsdill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As a former military officer, I am embarrassed and outraged to see American citizens with no training, no background in what they're doing, dressed up in full combat gear, carrying automatic weapons and other devices to harass and intimidate American citizens on our street. When you see the videos of that happening, and we need to understand those videos are being shown around the world. Is that the image of America we want shown around the world? I hope not. I hope you'll support this amendment. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Chair recognizes Representative Mosley for the second time.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll be brief. I'm going to say that I'm going to give the carrier of the bill credit and say that I think that the intentions are pure and that this is about public safety and stopping government overreach. We have the ultimate opportunity to consider public safety and stopping government overreach with this amendment that my colleague has brought up. This amendment, the amendment she brought up does that. We are not made safer by not listening to the WHO, but we're definitely made safer by not having masked men run through our neighborhoods with semi-automatic weapons, with very little training. Just like my previous colleague, I was in the military and I flew on airplanes. And before I touched the airplane, I went through multiple training, went through simulators before I even touched the aircraft. And right now we have folks who are responsible with the same amount of humans who have very little training, who can barely read. There's actually reports coming out that these people cannot pass open book tests. So we have illiterate men running through our neighborhoods with semi-automatic weapons. And I think the ultimate public safety opportunity right now is to get them out of our communities. And thank you very much.
Chair recognizes Representative Schmoy.
This is a very important conversation. These are real world things that are happening across the nation, and we should be having these conversations. And in congruency with these conversations, I will mention that just here in Kansas, ICE has detained second-degree murderer, somebody with indecent liberties with a minor, someone who is molesting children, someone with aggravated battery, someone with aggravated assault, cultivation of controlled substances, rape, drug trafficking, and arson. And I say all of that to say that this is a discussion. Unfortunately, it's not this discussion. This discussion is specifically about international organizations. This mirrors federal law, so it doesn't take a federal agency into account. It is specific to the UN, the WHO, and the WEF, and on those grounds, I challenge germaneness.
Germaneness has been challenged. The team will deliberate and make a ruling. The House will come to order. Chair recognizes Representative Smith, Representative Humphreys. The rules, Chair. Little rusty, sorry.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your patience, everybody. As you know, for a bill to be germane, the principal test is the relationship between the amendment and the subject of the bill, and there's different factors that we look at to decide if that's true or not. And some of the factors, it is deemed to be germane at times. If it's sort of we take everything out and we put something else in, that could possibly be germane. So I want to put that out there. But in this case, the factors that were most determinative were, does the amendment unreasonably expand the subject of the bill? It does expand it, we felt like, and I feel like, being the chairman of the rules, because it went from organizations to law enforcement, a federal agency. Would the amendment introduce an independent question, completely independent question, has to do with law enforcement instead of organizations? Would the amendment change the scope of the original bill? This does change the scope of the bill. And would the amendment require change in the bill title? It does require a change in the bill title, because right now the bill title says an act concerning international organizations, which the amendment does not address international organizations, but local, but federal. So because of that, the amendment is not germane, and that's the ruling, not germane.
The chair has ruled the amendment not germane. Okay. Representative Reese, you still have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I respect the process for the germaneness. I respect all the folks that were talking about the Rules Committee. Respect very much what you do. I just want to say that one of the things that having ICE, sorry.
We like donuts, Representative.
This is telling me my glucose is very low.
Maybe donuts aren't the right thing to do.
And that's the one thing I can't stop. Sorry about that. But having an entity like ICE that are basically terrorists to me, terrorizing our communities. And I think about, I was at a raid, and I witnessed it, and it was in a suburban neighborhood. It was just a regular suburban neighborhood. And I was there as a witness, and I saw the neighbors, the people living in the homes, close right there where it was happening. And they came out, and they were upset, of course, that this was happening in their neighborhood, that it was happening to some people that they know. They're just hardworking people. And they were taking some risks, and several of us asked them to be careful, because ICE will do what they do. There is no due process for anybody, and no respect for anyone.
Representative, could you please talk about the bill instead of the amendment, please?
I am.
All right, let's
I'm closing my
on the bill.
amendment.
Oh, the amendment was not germane, so please, we're back on the bill.
I will, what's the word? I will accept the non-germaneness.
All right. Representative Blake Carpenter.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I do have an amendment.
The amendment appears short. The clerk will read.
I move to amend HB 2204 on page 1 in the title in the line by striking its and inserting the.
Would you like to explain your amendment?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is just a technical cleanup amendment. Like the clerk just said, it's striking its and inserting the word the. I will stand for questions.
Any questions on the amendment? Seeing none, Representative, you may close.
I appreciate the long debate on my amendment this morning. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move my amendment.
You've heard the motion by Representative Blake Carpenter to amend. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Ayes appear to have it. Ayes do have it. Motion passes. We're back on the bill. Representative Sawyer Clayton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, body. Wanted to speak a little bit on this bill. We had the hearing on this bill and worked it out of committee last session, so some of us might be a little bit rusty on this. One of the concerns that I have with this legislation is the fact that the United Nations is included. And I think one of the main reasons why is that I'm a state legislator. I don't operate in foreign policy. I tend to leave those matters for our congressional delegation over in DC. But one thing that I do try to do is be an informed citizen and look at the news every morning. And as a history major, I'm pretty darn concerned with what our president is doing. We see that Denmark is increasing military forces around Greenland, while we have US senators running bills to declare that Greenland is the 51st state. Denmark is not only a member of NATO, but is also a member of the UN, as is the United States. We're looking at a point where our country might be pushing the UN to potentially impose sanctions on us, then a bill like this starts to look a little less benign and a little more combative. I understand that the debate needs to be had. I certainly respected the amendment that was brought, but I would urge you all, today I understand it's GO. There's no reason for you to make a big thing by voting no, but I want you to go home and I want you to read your history books. I want you to think about the reason why the United Nations was formed in the first place, which is after World War II, to make sure that we were keeping the temperature down and not engaging in conflict. When you come here tomorrow to take final action on this vote, I urge you all to vote no. Kansas should not be involved in creating further international conflict. We heard excellent speeches from our speaker on the first day we convened on the floor and from our governor about how we all need to engage in civility, keep the temperature down, and make sure we are being measured in our responses. So while we are potentially on the brink of war, we in Kansas need to set an example for our constituents by opposing any unnecessary items such as this bill that inflame conflict. Vote no tomorrow. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Does anyone else wish to speak on the bill? Seeing none, Representative Schmoy, you may close.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This four-line bill, it deserved this much attention. It deserves this much weight. It truly does. Because we are trying to prevent exploitation of loopholes. Global entities, global organizations, they don't know what's best for Kansas. They don't know what's best for our agriculture and our energy. They don't know what's best as far as our health and how we practice our health. What they can do is give suggestions And this does not take away their ability to give us suggestions that we can take into consideration, and we can listen to our own constituents and do what is best for Kansas. I encourage you to support state sovereignty. I encourage you to support your constituents back home. When we rise to report, I move that we report HB 2204 favorably for passage as amended. Thank you.
You heard the motion by Representative Schmoy to report House Bill 2204 favorable. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Ayes appear to have it. Ayes do have it. Motion passes. Next order of business is House Bill 2332. To carry House Bill 2332, the chair recognizes Representative Estes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The report has amendments, and I move the adoption of the committee report.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. Committee report is adopted. You may continue.
So I'm going to try to talk about this without getting dinged for using a prop, since I'm standing by what we're speaking about. I noticed it's at some point that we have a beautiful podium that was made by a former representative, Mark Hutton, and he worked with the Kansas Historical Society to design it and also to make the seal that's on the front of it. And I was looking through some of our different state seals, and I realized we had never adopted our own. So that's what I wanted to do today. So we heard it, and we liked it. And I reflected, and I realized we didn't kind of put guardrails on it. So I came back with an amendment that we can use it. We can't use it to convey the to appear to convey the opinion of the entire body when we use it in an individual way, and it cannot be used in campaigns. Then I reflected some more, and when I originally did the bill, I took the language from the original state seal bill, which was 75201. And it uses a word that I think that we don't really enjoy using anymore. It's not appropriate for us to use. So I did an amendment to change that word. And then I reflected some more and said, well, if we're fixing it in my bill, we should probably also fix it in the original place. So I do have an amendment.
The amendment appears. Yeah, the clerk will read.
I move to amend HB 2332 as amended by House Committee on page 1 in line 5 before section by inserting new, in line 14 by striking Indians and inserting Native Americans, following line 26 by inserting Section 2, KSA 75-201 is hereby amended to read as follows. 75201, the Great Seal of the State of Kansas, procured by the Secretary of State as required by the joint resolution approved May 25th, 1861, which resolution was published as Chapter 78, Laws of 1861, shall be and remain the Great Seal of this state. Such seal is described in said joint resolution as follows. The east is represented by a rising sun in the right-hand corner of the seal. To the left of it, commerce is represented by a river and a steamboat. In the foreground, agriculture is represented as the basis of the future prosperity of the state, by a settler's cabin and a man plowing with a pair of horses. Beyond this is a train of ox wagons going west. In the background is seen as a herd of buffalo, retreating, pursued by two.
I'm going to go ahead and waive the reading. Representative Estes, you may continue.
Is the microphone? There it is. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Simply put, this removes the word on line 14 in the bill and replaces it with Native Americans, and it does the same with the language that covers the state seal. It doesn't alter that in any other way. I just think that we're have come a long way, and it's a great way for us to do better. And happy to stand for questions.
Does any member wish to speak on the bill? Chair recognizes, or on the amendment, I'm sorry. Chair recognizes Representative Meyer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I keep trying to get used to which buttons to push. I just wanted to note that I very much support this amendment. This is an amendment that we had brought up in our caucus as well, and I was ready to offer it, but I'm glad it got taken care of. So go team.
Does anyone else wish to speak on the amendment? Seeing none, Representative, you may close your amendment.
I close my amendment.
All those in favor of Representative Estes' amendment, say aye. Opposed, no. Ayes appear to have it. Ayes do have it. Motion passes. We're back on the bill. Chair recognizes Representative Meyer.
This new ranking, I'm getting my steps in. Thanks. We do support this bill. It's a great bill. Thank you for bringing it and making the appropriate changes to the language. Go team.
Does anyone else wish to speak on the bill? Seeing none, Representative Estes, you may close.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move House Bill 2332 as amended.
You've heard the motion by Representative Estes to report House Bill 2332 favorable. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. It's pretty hard, but I think motion passes. This does conclude general orders. Chair recognizes the majority leader.
Mr. Chair, I move we rise and report.
You've heard the motion to rise and report. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes.
The clerk will read the committee report.
Mr. Speaker, your committee of the whole recommends that HB 2204, HB 2332 be passed as amended.
Speaker recognizes Representative Hoffman to adopt the committee of the whole report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Speaker, I move the adoption of the committee of whole report.
You've heard the motion to adopt the committee report. All those in favor signify by saying aye. All opposed, no. The ayes have it. The committee report is adopted. Is there any objection to returning to that order of business, introduction of bills and concurrent resolutions? Seeing no objection, the clerk will read.
HB 2445 by Committee on Taxation, requested by Representative Bryce, an act concerning income taxation. HB 2446 by Committee on Elections, requested by Representative Wagner, an act concerning elections.
House Bill 2346 is withdrawn from Committee of the Whole and referred to Committee on Commerce, Labor, and Economic Development. Representative Ward is appointed to replace Representative Turk as conferee on Senate Bill 30. Are there announcements? Speaker recognizes Representative Riley.
Mr. Speaker, I am honored again to invite everybody, including your office assistants or any other supporting personnel, to our legislative prayer breakfast tomorrow morning, 7:38 or 7 o'clock a.m. It's going to be in room 142. So we'll have some coffee, but the important thing is we'll have a great guest speaker. He's been here the last couple of years, Jim Congdon. He's used to be a pastor at the Topeka Bible Church. Always has a great message. So if you can set your alarm clock a little earlier and come in at 7 a.m., I think you'll really appreciate his message. Thank you.
Speaker recognizes Representative Francis.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I want to remind all of you transportation fans that we will have committee at 1:30 today. But the real reason I came up here is I want to talk just a little bit about legislative post-audit and something you're going to be getting in your email. Legislative post-audit is the nonpartisan audit arm of the Kansas Legislature. Post-audit provides us with accurate, unbiased information through audit reports. Their work evaluates whether agencies are following laws, achieving intended results, and operating efficiently. And it also provides insight into how agencies and programs actually work. Finally, in some cases, post-audit can provide analysis on how changing current government structures and systems might affect state costs and program outcomes. If you have an idea for an audit, I want to encourage you to reach out to Chris Clark or Kristen Rottinghouse, our lead auditors with post-audit. But because we also need your feedback, because it's intended to serve the full legislature, the Legislative Post-Audit Committee would like your feedback on the audits provided by the committee and the work conducted by legislative post-audit staff. So you're going to be receiving a link to an electronic survey via email this week, and I ask you to please take a moment to complete this questionnaire. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Speaker recognizes Representative Estes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We, as a state, have invested a lot of money and a lot of effort and a lot of bipartisan desire to do the best for our children in Kansas by investing in the science of reading. And Tuesday is Literacy Day for House Ed and Senate Ed. And we're going to talk about the science of reading. And it occurred to me that not everybody here is a teacher, has experience in that. And I wanted to bring materials that relate to science of reading curriculum and leave there out in my office on a table. You're welcome to stop by anytime and see what science of reading is, because I thought as long as we're asking you to invest in it, you might like to come and put your hands on it, flip through it, and see what it's all about. Thank you.
Speaker recognizes Representative Blake Carpenter.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The intern lapel pins have come in. I've hit most of you, but I think there's still a few that I'm missing. So if I haven't had a chance to give you your intern lapel pin yet for the session, please hit me up afterwards, and I'd love to give that to you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Speaker recognizes Representative Woodard.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today, the Future Caucus, which is our network of legislators 45 and under, but we're opening up training to all of you across the street. The Levin Center for Legislative Oversight and Democracy, which is based at Wayne State Law School, is here doing a training and workshop on legislative oversight. I met them at Council of State Governments, and they worked with the Future Caucus as well. They are over at the Docking State Office Building in room 200 from 2:30 to 5. If you can't go the whole time because you have 3:30 committee, that's okay. And if you're participating at 2:30, there's lunch over there beforehand. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Speaker recognizes Representative Stogsdale.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Democrats will have agenda tomorrow morning at 8:30, regular room, 8:30.
Wow, that's some pretty big excitement there. So, hey, today we knocked the cobwebs off. I don't remember the last time we had that kind of debate in the first week of session, so that was kind of cool. Kind of everybody got used to things, so strap on your boots. We're going to run hard now. Maybe I should say strap on your tennis shoes. We're going to run hard. But it was a good day. Thank you very much, body. Speaker recognizes the majority leader for a motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And in keeping with what we've done all off season, those were my comments, but we're not going to calendar in the morning. We've already done everything we need to do. And again, thanks for all the knocking off all the cobwebs. We move forward, but also there was delivered this little book as I'm reading it. It says legislative spouses. It was delivered to your offices, and there's a time clock on, make sure it gets to your spouses. But if you didn't get one, there's extra here. Just come by and pick them up at the office. Appreciate it. With that, Mr. Speaker, I move the House adjourn. until Thursday, January 15th at 11 a.m.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye. All opposed, no. The ayes have it, and we are adjourned.
I was trying to.